Maybe. Okay, we are officially live.
So can we still ask questions?
Yes, you can still talk as normal. It's just for people who couldn't be here today that wanted to see the presentation, but they were on break or whatever the case may be, or could not leave their office. So we gave them access through YouTube to see a live stream. So that's how we're going to try and do this today. I'm going to go ahead and load up the screen share.
So it's still within the family?
Yes.
Okay.
It's public, but who's going to go out and search up us for a TRS presentation? I mean, I doubt anybody's going to do that.
Go ahead. Hello.
So in the fall, we'll be able to set up an appointment face to face with someone. I know tomorrow's appointment, I need a chance to get into that.
Right. Yes, ma'am. We'll definitely set up a time. Would you like to come back? We'll make sure we do that.
Are you saying that it was a valid?
Ma'am,
Valid retirement?
no, ma'am. Just teachers retirement. I just separate that. I just do it with TRS.
Have you seen a ballot?
Mm-mm.
I didn't see what's in the video. Got here is
Well, we had Mr. out from Moultrie. Mr. Moultrie.
Ma'am, if you would, that's the children.
yeah, because I haven't heard from one or seen one in like, how long have it been? 10 years? Yeah, at least 8.
You talking about a while.
Hey, are you done?
I'm
I'm here, but not for long.
done my I still get my statement.
I get mine,
Tomorrow.
but I stopped seeing it. Want my body, call you, want my body, contact me.
Did you get Shelley figured out? No, you didn't get it figured out. You did that fine.
From there, because wherever I had it, it's just been, this thing. Have a couple of stops in there, you know, but like I say, I have to go, I guess I didn't call.
I just started a whole nother one with somebody else. Left that in there. Don't even,
You can get it though, like.
yeah, that's all right.
They wrote me. Hold on.
Okay, so do you see me now? Okay. And then tell me what you see now. I love it. Okay, but you don't see the TRS presentation. That's weird. And I just sent it away. So hold on. I think it's just too much of a lag. I'm gonna do this one more time. Tell me what you.
Sit down. No, I got work stuff in the library. So it's me. Something like this. No, yours is next week. I chose to have the other one this week.
Okay. All right. Well, I did tell people that might happen, but I'll keep his voice going.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. Okay.
Yours is next week.
Well, you couldn't see it.
Okay, if you guys are listening through YouTube, apparently there is a major lag now versus what it was this morning. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna aim the camera at the actual screen and possibly you can see it through that, but if not, the link we sent you for the PowerPoint, you can open that up and I'll tell you when it's time to go to the next slide.
I got it. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Oh.
I got it. That's just the water. Did you want to intro? I'm saying, I don't know if you can do an intro. It's up to you.
Guys, some of you may recognize him from having come here before, but if not, this is Carlos Marshall. Carlos is our TRS representative, and he comes down probably about once or so a year now to just educate our new employees, our mid-career employees, and then do counseling sessions with those who are looking forward to retirement shortly. So if you guys would give him a hand, this is Carlos.
All right, how's everyone doing this afternoon? Yeah. Good. Well, my name is Carlos Marshall, and I'm a retirement planner with the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia. One of my main responsibilities is traveling throughout the state doing seminars like this one. Well, I've been with TRS for 11 years now, so I'm vested. So I'm understand the importance of that. Now, this presentation, you can stop me at any point if you have any questions. We're going to make sure that we cover everything with you. So make sure each of you all should have a pen, should have a member guide, and should also have a handout that you can follow along with the presentation. A few things that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about your benefit. We're going to break down the benefit formula. And we're going to also talk about ways you can supplement your benefit. This is a great time to think about that now because you have time to be able to add to your benefit now to do other things, to have the benefit where you want it when you actually get ready to retire. One great thing about the TRS benefit is it's called a defined benefit because there's a set formula that was used to figure your benefit. Your TRS benefit is not something that's based on the fluctuation of the market. Doesn't matter whether the market goes up or down, your benefit from TRS is not going to be affected by that. Also, your benefit is not something that you can outlive. This is going to be a lifetime benefit for you. It can also be a lifetime benefit for your beneficiary, depending on what option you choose. That's one of the main decisions that you're going to have to make is what option you're going to choose. And it's very important to sit down with your beneficiaries to let them know what plan you're thinking about choosing, because you want them to know whether they're going to receive it. So that's one of the most important decisions that you're going to have to make. You must meet some eligibility requirements to receive your benefit, and we'll talk about what those eligibility requirements are. When you hear the word normal retirement, What this means is retiring without a penalty. And you can do this if you have at least 30 years of service, regardless of your age, or if you have at least 10 years, which makes you vested, coupled with age 60, this will allow you to retire. Those are considered as service retirements. You're also able to retire on a normal retirement under disability. To be deemed disabled, we have a panel of 3 physicians that will evaluate your medical records. If 2 of the 3 say that you're disabled, you consider it as temporarily disabled, and you have to be reevaluated in a year's time. If all 3 say that you're disabled, you consider it as permanently disabled, and you don't have to be reevaluated. If you're eligible for normal retirement, but you become disabled, go ahead and retire in a normal retirement because the process is quicker and you don't have to prove anything, even though you are disabled. Just do normal retirement. Now, if you just can't take it anymore and you just have to get out of there, you can retire under early retirement. This is in the second circle. Early retirement is if you have at least 25 years of service, but you're under age 60. This is considered early. Few things about early retirement. That would be a permanent monetary penalty assessed to your account if you retire early. And what we do is calculate your benefit assuming you reach the normal milestone, and then we take the penalty from that figure. So let's say it's going to be 1/12 of 7% for every month that you're short 60 years of age, or it's going to be a full 7% for every year, a partial year you're short of the 30 years of service. So let's say that you're 59 years of age, you have 25 years of service, that's going to be 1/12 because you're closer to 60. Let's say that you're age 55, but you have the 29 years of service. That is going to be a full 7% because you're closer to 30 years of service. If you're considering retiring early, give us a call first. So that way we can do an estimate for you to let you know exactly what your benefit is going to be. Because if you're going to start receiving the benefit under the penalty, that penalty is going to last throughout your retirement. The only way to get rid of that penalty is if you terminate your retirement, come back into the workforce and begin receiving service credit again. So you want to make sure. Also, if you retire early, you will not be able to take advantage of the cost of living adjustments right away. You won't start receiving those until you reach either the 30 years of service or age 60, whichever one comes first. And you're not able to take advantage of the plot, and we'll talk about that. In reference to cost of living adjustments, you're scheduled to receive 2 a year. 1.5 in January and 1.5 in July, for a total of 3%. If you retire anywhere from January 1 to June 1, you can expect to receive your first cost of living adjustment the following January. If you retire anywhere from July 1 to December 1, you can expect to receive your first cost of living adjustment the following July. So you always get the very first one, and you get the next one that comes around. So you keep that in mind. This is the benefit formula. This is what we use to figure your monthly benefit. What we do is look at the number of years that you have, including any kind of partial years, times the 2% multiplier, times the highest 24 consecutive months of salary. That gives us your monthly benefit. When we're looking at your salary, we're going to look at your entire career. Most cases, if you continue to receive increases, your last 2 years may be your highest 24, but not necessarily. If you took a job where you took a decrease in pay, then we're going to look at the highest. We're not going to penalize you because you decrease your salary. We're going to look at the highest 24 over your entire career. So we can go back as far as we need to pull that high 24. When you begin receiving your monthly checks, 3 things will come out. Be your federal taxes, state taxes, and the healthcare benefit if you're on the state health. The maximum number of years that you can use to figure your benefit is 40 years. You can work past 40, but 40 is the max that we can use in your benefit. Once you reach 40 years of service and you have a decision, you can decide to stop contributing. If you do that, then we'll look at the salary up until that 40 years. If you happen to work past that 40, then we'll take all the salary and you continue to contribute, we'll look at the salary past 40, but no more service. So that 40 years of service is one time you can make a decision whether to stop contributing or not.
So when you say you look at the salary, does that mean in my 43rd year and 44th year, I have the two of the highest consecutive years? That's what goes in the formula.
That is correct. If you decide to contribute, past 40, that is the way that it works. The salary in those years will count as the highest 24 if you decide to contribute. If you stop contributing, then we're going to only look at the service and the salary up to those 40 years. But what makes the determination is whether you decide to continue or not. Because if you stop contributing, then your salary is only going to be based on what you have received so far. But you say, yes, I want to contribute, then all salary will continue, even from those, like to the 43rd, 44th year. That is correct. Now, as far as the state health benefit plan, you can continue to keep that in retirement, and normally the premium will be the same as an active member. It does not change just because you retire. So again, federal, state, and the healthcare benefits. The great thing about state taxes in the state of Georgia, at age 62, you begin receiving a tax exemption on the first $35,000. Then at age 65, you're going to begin receiving a tax exemption on the first $65,000. This is state only. Federal still applies, but state, you will be exempt at those ages. 62, 35,000, 65, 65,000. State only. Now let's talk about creditable service. This is what actually gives you credit towards your account. There's three different components of creditable service. You have your membership service, is what you're earning right now. If you go to work on a half-time or greater basis for at least half of the business days in a month, you're going to receive credit for 1 month towards your TRS account. 9 months makes a year. So if you work 9 months in that fiscal year, you're going to receive 1 year of credit. Academic faculty, 8 months makes a year because they're on the semester system. The fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. So if you work 9 months in that given period, you're going to receive credit for 1 year towards your TRS account. If you're on a 12-month contract, your service credit begins in July, and by the end of March, you've reached your 1 year. If you're on a 10 or 11-month contract, your service credit begins in August, and by the end of April, you've reached your 1 year. After you've reached your 1 year, you don't receive any more service credit. However, you continue to contribute as well as your employer, and your sick leave still accumulates. But you don't get any more service credit into the next fiscal year. Yes, sir.
Still, I can ask questions that is
yes,
came in a little late.
absolutely.
Do you mind backing up to the previous slide? I have a question on that page. The question pertains to the middle part. It says average monthly salary for the highest consecutive 2 years. Those employees that were once 12-month employees, monthly salary didn't increase, they became 11-month employees. So that monthly salary, of course, now is divided over a 12-month period of time.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, does that affect your TRS retirement?
It,
12-month investment?
Yes. The question was moved from one contract to the next. If you move from a 10 to 11, 11 to a 12, or 12 to 10, or 12 to 11, it does. What we have to look at is whenever that change took place, we're going to prorate it throughout that year. Whatever particular month that you got that increase in, we're going to look at when that was. And we're going to look at when that was. If that captures the high 24, it's possible that that can be in your high 24. But it's possible the next years, if you continue to go up in salary, then whatever years it's going to pull, it's going to be from the highest. But that does count in there. So we have to look at exactly when you got that increase and whether your high salary continue to go up or not. But we'll look at that as specific for every person because, again, depends on what the rest of your career is going to be. But we do look at that.
You keep using the term increase. Wouldn't that be a decrease?
No, I'm saying if it increases.
Oh, if it,
right. If it increases and what, but if it decreases and what not, that will capture that time frame. So it just depends on what happens. If it goes up, we're going to look at that time frame. If the salary goes down, then it's going to be based on the highest that you've ever received, and we'll back it up 24 months to pick up the highest. But in any case, it's always going to be the highest 24.
It was this initially explained that the monthly salary did not change, but the time period in which you are paid did change.
Right, what we're looking at is your monthly salary, because we're not looking at it for payroll, we're looking at what is actually sent over to us. So whatever your monthly salary is, we take the highest 24 consecutive monthly salary, and that gets you a higher salary.
Okay, maybe I'd like to see the after the meeting.
Yes, sir, we can do that. We can look at a specific example. Now, the second component is going to be purchase service. Purchase service is a way for you to increase your benefit based on you purchasing service that you may have rendered in the past. You may have had withdrawn service where you were working for teacher retirement. You took the money out. Now you return back to a teacher retirement covered position and you want to reestablish that service. You can do that. You may have had out-of-state service. You work in the out-of-state system. Now you're here in Georgia. You want to purchase that service from the out-of-state system. You can do that. So that's what's considered as purchase service.
Now, is that airtime part of it?
Airtime is a part of purchase service. What airtime is a service that you haven't actually rendered. You have to have at least 25 years of service first before you can purchase airtime. And you can purchase up to 3 years. Airtime is service, again, you just reaching in the air and grabbing that service. You actually have not rendered it. Other services that I just mentioned, like military or withdrawn or out of state, you actually rendered that service and you buy it back. But airtime, you can have at least 25 years of service and purchase that.
Is that airtime based on your salary?
It's based on your highest 24 consecutive months of salary as well.
So if you're buying a year, you're paying a year for your
Well,
salary.
kind of what it, a very rough figures for airtime. I've seen it anywhere from 65 to 75% of your highest annual salary for each year that you want to buy. So it's quite expensive when you're looking at that, because what you're doing, you're paying full actuarial value into the system because you haven't actually rendered that service. It's not going to be exact what your salary was, so it's going to be around that. Depends on, you know, how close you are to retirement. So you're looking at anywhere 65 to 75% of your highest annual salary for each year that you want to buy. The one thing about airtime, go ahead.
If you buy that, I was reading here something about you can't go above 30 with it.
You can. You can go to 3 years is the max that you can purchase.
So like if you had 29 years, you could buy 3.
Correct. You can do that, but you wouldn't need to, because all you need is to try to hit the 30. You can do that, but it's not cost effective based on going over 30. Sometimes people usually buy airtime just to keep from having a penalty, because if you retire at 29 years as a penalty, you buy the airtime that keeps you from having that penalty. So it's cost effective because it's keeping you from having that 7% penalty. But to buy it just to add years on over and above, it's not cost effective because the amount that it's going to cost and the difference that it's going to make from 30 years to 31. It doesn't make sense to buy it just to get 31 years.
But it makes sense to buy it. You got 29.
Correct, because it's keeping you from having a penalty. So that's the difference. The one thing with airtime is you have to have already submitted your application for retirement before you can buy that. You can get a cost calculation at 25 years to see how much it's going to cost, but you cannot actually make the purchase of it until you've already submitted your application for retirement. We're going to have to know that you're going to retire, then you can buy the airtime. You can actually buy airtime in 1 month increments. Let's say that you have 29.778 years of service. You've used all your sick leave. You can actually buy 2 months of airtime. You don't have to buy it in 1 year increments. You can buy it in 1 month increments. And it's not going to be as expensive as if you try to buy for a year. Now, when it comes to unused sick leave, this is the third component of creditable service. You have to have at least 60 days of unused sick leave before you can apply that to your retirement. And we normally do sick leave retroactively. We normally start your checks off without sick leave, then we come back and figure your checks later. We do that because we don't want to hold your checks waiting on sick leave to be processed. So normally you're going to receive anywhere from 1 to 2 checks without the sick leave, but you won't lose those payments, because as soon as we receive the certification for sick leave, we will go back and pay you out for those couple of payments that were sent out to you without it. Then all your subsequent checks will come out with the sick leave included. Yes, ma'am.
All right. As far as, let's say you got 29 years
Yes, ma'am.
and you're less than 60 and you got a year of sick leave,
Yes, ma'am.
is that going to make the 30 years?
That's the next slide. Absolutely.
Will there be a penalty?
The question, you're going to have a penalty for those couple of checks because you're at 29. Once we see that you have enough sick leave days, then that's going to put you to 30. And those couple of payments that were sent out to you under the penalty, that will be made up, and then all your subsequent checks will come out under 30. So that's what I was going to mention. This is what this shows. So if you have at least 170 days, that gives you a year's service. So you can work 29 years, apply the 170, that gives you 30. So you can use your sick leave to bridge you to a certain point, or you can use it over and above. Let's say that you go ahead and work the 30, but you have 90 days of unused sick leave. That's going to give you 30 years and 5 months of credit. So you can use it to go over 30 or whatever number you work to, or you can use it to bridge you to 30. Now, when you look on here, the maximum number that we just have on this chart is 369. We actually, you can apply more than that. I worked with a member about 2 years ago that actually had 520 days of unused sick leave. So that was an additional 3 years of credit. So that added 6% to her monthly benefit for the rest of her life. So this is why we try to say at this point, while you're still in the middle of your career and some people just starting, we tell them it's very important to save those sick leave days. Even when you need a mental health days coming anyway. So, you know, because those days on the back end, they count. And I'll show you an example of how the sick leave works. Here we take a scenario, Tom and Mary. They both worked till they were 60 years of age at 26 years of service. Now, they both accumulated the 12.5 days per year, but Tom, he took all of his days. Mary saved hers. So at retirement, Tom did not have any sick leave days to add to his account. Using the benefit formula that we used earlier, 26 years times 2%, that gives him 52% of his salary. Using the same hybrid salary, you can see what Tom's monthly benefit is. But let's look at Mary. She saved 312 days using the same benefit formula for 26 years, but now that gives her an additional year and 7 months of credit. So now instead of using the 26 years, we're going to use the 27 years and 7 months times 2% times the same high average salary. So you can look and see what Mary's monthly benefit would be. So for saving those 312 days, she's going to receive an additional $160 per month. That's for the rest of her life. So that shows you how the sick leave works.
Based on hours.
No, hours, you just divide hours by 8, that tells you the days.
Okay.
So whatever number of hours you have, if they carry it by hours, you divide that by 8, that tells you how many days you have. And if you look on the chart, that tells you how much credit you get for the number of days that you have. So if you look on page 26 of the member guide, and also in your handout, that tells you the chart. So wherever you fall in that range, like I said, 170 is the same as 189. Anywhere in that range, that tells you how much credit you receive for the number of days that you have. Now let's look at an example. We talked about withdrawal service. Let's look at an example of a member that actually took their money out. Here, Sarah taught for 13 years, but she decided to leave for the private sector, and she took her money out. You can see what she's accumulated plus interest, the $10,995. She took it directly to herself, so it was taxed. So she does not have a lifetime benefit. Let's look at what happens if she comes back to work and she decides not to purchase those years back. Again, she came back to work for another 17 years. At age 60, she retired. Using the benefit formula, 17 years times the 2%, times her high average salary, and you can see what her monthly benefit is. But with this scenario, she decided to buy those years back. But look how much that $10,995 is going to cost her with interest. This is what she had to pay for those 13 years that she withdrew. But now that she purchased those back, 17 years she worked, 13 years she's purchasing back, that's going to give her 30 years now. Times 2%, times the same high average salary, but you can see what her benefit is increased to. But to help you decide whether it's going to be cost effective or not is to see how long it's going to take you to recoup that money. 21 months is what it's going to take her to recoup that $20,000 that she paid for those 13 years. So when you're considering whether to purchase service back or not, you get us to do an estimate assuming that you purchased the service, assuming that you did not. see how much it's going to cost, and then we can do a cost analysis. You can do that cost analysis to see how long it's going to take you to recoup it. That's what I was mentioning earlier about the airtime. It's going to take you a long time to recoup it if you're trying to buy years over and above. But if you're trying to buy it to keep you from having a penalty, then the amount of time that's going to take you to recoup it is not going to be that long. So that's kind of what you look at when you're trying to make the determination whether to purchase it or not. Right now, you all are contributing 6% of your monthly gross into TRS. Your employee is putting in a little over 13%. So if you look at this example, using the same gross salary, the $3,750, 6% of that monthly gross is the $3,525. And you see it comes out pre-tax. That's why your benefit is taxed in retirement, because it's coming out on a pre-tax basis now. But the good thing about coming out pre-tax is that it actually lowers your taxable income. So you're getting taxed on this monthly benefit opposed to this. So you can see it helps.
So we contribute 6% right now.
Correct, 6% of your monthly gross. That's what you're contributing to your account every month. And TRS has a large account where your employer, along with about 400 other employees, contribute to that. So we have about 400 employees. So we have about $65 to $66 billion in the large TRS fund. And then you have what you've accumulated in yours. And that's the way that we pay you out. So let's take a look at how your benefit works if you continue to work longer. You're vested at 10 years, age 60. And for these, we're going to use the same average salary. Of course, the multiplier stays the same. But you can see what you will receive if you retire for 10 years. Work another 10 years, you see how much it goes up. Work to 30, go up to 40, you can see the difference. So this kind of gives you an idea of what kind of effect it has the longer you work. If you're trying to project out, try to plan what your retirement may be, this is the way you can kind of get an idea. So the longer you work, the larger your benefit is going to be. Now let's talk about the different options. We're going to talk about these in a nutshell. You have some really detailed explanation in the member guide. We're going to talk about the importance of being vested, and we're going to talk about your beneficiaries. We have 7 different options, but basically only 2 types of plans. The options in the first circle are the ones that will not allow you to leave a lifetime benefit to your beneficiary. Options 2 through 4 in the second circle will allow you to leave that lifetime benefit. The question that you ask yourself is whether your beneficiary would suffer a financial hardship without your benefit. If that was not a need for your beneficiary to have your benefit upon your death, you would choose one of the options in the first circle. If you want to guarantee that benefit for your beneficiary, you will begin looking at the options in the second circle. Earlier, I mentioned that you accumulate your money in your account and the TRS account accumulated from all the other employers. Well, when you're looking at this option, we begin pulling the money out of your account up front at a rate of 100% with the maximum plan. So it's only going to take around 2 years for all the money that you put in there to be depleted. Not a big concern, because as soon as your money has been depleted, we begin pulling it from TRS to pay you out for life. But if you happen to pass away within the first 2 years under the maximum plan, a lump sum of whatever's left in your account will be paid out to your beneficiary. After that 2 years upon your death, the benefit stops. Because again, by then, all of your money will have been depleted. Looking at Plan B, option 1, now we're going to take around 20% of the money from your account. The other 80% we're going to pull from TRS. What that does is extend the length of time that it takes for your money to deplete. Now you're looking at 10 to 14 years compared to the 2 years under the maximum. Remember earlier we said that you can keep your health care under any option that you choose. But with the first 2 options, because your beneficiary would not receive a lifetime benefit on a monthly basis, if you passed away, they can keep the health care, but they have to make that premium payment out of pocket because there's no check for us to take it from. Also, under these 2 options, your beneficiary, if they remarry, they will lose the health care. Not only them, but if they happen to have any other dependents on, they will lose it as well. So these are the options that will not allow you to leave a lifetime benefit to your beneficiary. These options will allow you to leave that.
But would the premium for the healthcare be the same?
It would.
As it was?
Well, actually, it'll be go down because once they move to single, so it'll go down for them actually because it'll be a single coverage now. But it's the same coverage and everything, so it does not change just because of anything. So yes, ma'am, they have the same access, same benefits as they did when you were still living. So yes, ma'am.
But it's just that they would have to pay it if we went under.
That's correct. That's correct. You choose one of these options that'll come out of their check just like it was yours. But one of these, they have to make it on a monthly basis.
So if
Yes,
you
ma'am.
have no children,
Mm-hmm.
you and your husband's not gonna suffer if you die. Except for
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
the benefit of plan A or B is because I'm getting more money
Yes, ma'am.
every month.
Right, because the max give you the highest benefit. Now, if you go over to leave an option, you leave a benefit to someone, your benefit is going to be reduced because now what we're doing is accounting for your beneficiary's lifespan. So that's correct. You leave a benefit, it's going to lower your benefit. So the younger the beneficiary, the more of a reduction because of the period of time that we have to pay them out based on life expectancy.
And that benefit you're talking about is back over from what we got from the formula.
That's correct. That's correct.
So now we're gonna subtract from that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. That is correct. Thank you. Any other questions on the options? Okay. So let's talk about the importance of vesting and if you happen to terminate your employment. Now, if you leave your funds with teachers' retirement, they will continue to draw interest up to 4 years after you've left. After 4 years, they go into a frozen status. And all that means is that they stop accruing interest. The funds are still there for you. You can either take the funds out. If you did that, then that's gonna, either you can take them directly to yourself, they're gonna be taxed up front, or you can roll them over to another investment account. If you happen to come back, if you did not take your funds out and you came back, all you do is start back from where you were. Those years are still there. So you can keep it there. If you happen to take the funds out, then what you're able to do at that point is you're able to pay them back if you come back and start in another TRS position. Now, once you reach 10 years of service, you certainly don't want to take the money out because by then you already are vested. Let's say that you have the 10 years, but you're only 40 years of age, you're only 50. Well, you just leave the funds there. Once you turn 60, you just apply for retirement. So you can come back and do that. So that's the thing you think about. Once you get vested, you certainly don't want to take the money out. You can, but if you do that, you're going to give up that lifetime benefit. So you have those options. Now let's talk, so an example here, what happens when Sarah began teaching at age 25. After 17 years, she decided to leave employment for the private sector. Again here, if she leaves the funds with us, 17 years times the 2%, and you see what her monthly benefit is. She's going to receive this at age 60 for the rest of her life. So this is the scenario where she left, but she left the funds there. She's going to get those cost of living adjustments. That's going to be for the rest of her life. Now, the one situation with this scenario is once she left, she's not going to have the health care in retirement when she comes back at 60. Because remember, when she left, she broke her ties with the system. So she doesn't have health care at that point. She still have a monthly benefit, but no more health care because she basically quit. But her funds are still there. Her 17 years are still hers. Well, look at what happens here. She took the funds out after the 17 years. This is what she received, minus taxes. But look at what happened. Over those years, look at the amount that she gave up for taking those funds out. So 25 years of benefits, not including the cost of living adjustments. Look at what she gave up. So I don't know about you, but I know anything that I can invest this in to be able to earn this over those 25 years. So this shows you the benefit of leaving your funds there because it's there for retirement anyways. Out of sight, out of mind. When you reach that vesting point, even if you decide to leave teacher's retirement, just leave your funds there. Any questions on this?
On the plans we talked just a minute about,
Yes, ma'am.
on here, the retirees benefit increases with a pop-up.
Well, yeah, the way the pop-up work, this is an option that if your beneficiary predeceased you, it goes back up to the max.
Okay.
That's how it increases, because the regular option 2 and the regular option 3, if your beneficiary predeceased you, there's no increase. But what allows us to increase you on your benefit is that that's usually a reduction to move from the regular option 2 to the regular option 3. You move to the pop-up, it allows you to go back up. So if you look on there, if your beneficiary predeceased you, if you have one beneficiary, that beneficiary passes away before you, you pop back up to the maximum plan. That's correct. That's what happens on the pop-up. The regular option 2 and 3 does not allow you to do that. Again, there's a further reduction, about a $30 to $40 difference between the regular option 2 and 3 to move to the pop-up. So that reduction is what allows us to take you back up. Difference, right. A reduction of $30 from one to the next. And that allows you to go back up to the max. Whenever you do a benefit estimate, it'll give you all the options and it'll show you what the difference will be. And it'll show you that you'll go back up to the max if you choose that option. So that's what happens. So now let's talk about beneficiaries. You want to make sure that you have your beneficiary information updated. One, you look at, we have a primary and a secondary beneficiary on your account. Earlier, I said that the affect your account, your monthly benefit. This is only the primary. Your secondary beneficiary, the age of your secondary does not affect your benefit. But it's good to have the secondary on there. Because let's say something happens to you and your primary beneficiary at the same time. Let's say within the first 30 days of retirement. At that point, the secondary will move up to primary and begin receiving a lifetime benefit. But let's say that you've already started receiving benefits and still within the 2 years. At that point, if you pass away, then your secondary will start receiving just a lump sum if you're in the primary. So it's very important to have the updated information for your primaries and your secondaries. And you can leave a benefit, but he forgot to change it from his ex-wife. So that she's having us sure of that. So to make sure that you go home and change the information. And if your beneficiaries are getting on your nerve, my name is Carlos Marshall. I'll take care of your benefit for you. So we're going to make sure that you update that. If you have a minor child, you want to designate them as the beneficiary, go ahead and do that. Some people think that you will want to have the guardian as the beneficiary. But if you do that and something happens to the guardian, then the benefit will stop. If you have the child designated, something happens to the guardian, we will just collect guardianship papers and have a new guardian selected. And that benefit will continue to that child for their lifetime. And that's what you want. You can have a trust as the beneficiary. If you have a special needs trust, a lot of different kind of trusts you have, but you have to make sure that that person is named in that trust. You can have an estate or institution as your beneficiary, but if you do that, we can only pay a lump sum. The only way to keep that benefit going on a monthly basis is if you have a named individual as your beneficiary. So you have to make sure you keep that in mind.
Question about
Yes, ma'am.
beneficiaries. All right, if we have two beneficiaries,
Mhm.
all right, and then when we're retired and I die, I mean, is it gonna get split between those two?
It's based on how you put it. Are we looking at 100%?
50%, 50%.
You can put 50-50, 75-25. Do you like one more than the other? How do you want to do it?
They would be, the monthly benefit would go to them for the
Yes,
rest of their
ma'am.
life?
If you choose one of those options in the second circle that we looked at, it's based on the option that you choose. Now, the percentage, how they get the benefit is based on the percentages that you put.
Right.
Whether they receive a lifetime benefit or not is based on the option that you choose. So option 2 through 4, if you choose one of those, that means upon your death, they were going to receive it for lifetime. How they get it is going to be based on how you have the percentages. 50-50, that means whatever option 2, they're going to take 100% of that option 2 benefit, split it between the two. So it's based on you have 3 children, 33 and a third. So however you want to do it, 4, 25 apiece, as long as they're looking at 100%. So that's how they're going to get it based on the percentage that you put in.
And then what about as far as the health insurance? I mean, with that, with the.
Yeah, they still have that coverage. Whoever you have on there when you retire, right, they can stay on there, correct. Of course, until state health, the limitations as to when they drop off, I guess it's 26 now. I think you're 26, so of course, age for children. So as long as they're eligible, they're on there. Yes, ma'am. Now, we're going to talk about a few questions you should ask yourself. And one great thing is ways that you can actually improve your income. We're going to talk about the difference in a defined contribution plan and a defined benefit plan. One great thing you want to ask yourself is, what are your lifetime goals and how will you achieve those? You want to set those short-term goals and your long-term goals. Very important, those short-term goals may be to get to vesting, to reach the 10 years. The long-term goal is to reach normal retirement. 35, the 30 years or age 60. So those are the goals that you want to, and how are you going to get there? Have you established any other retirement plans outside of your TRS benefit? Normally, TRS will be your largest source of benefit, but then you want to look at other ways. Now, do you all pay the Social Security here? You don't? Okay. So you want to look at other ways. So if you pay into it, we look at your retirement as a 3-legged stool. It's your TRS benefit, Social Security if you're paying in, and then your personal savings. So if you know that you're not paying into Social Security, you want to make sure that you make that up in another way. So that way you can have that benefit that you need. Okay, you also want to ask yourself, how are you managing your monthly expenses to achieve your financial goals? And what will happen, this is very important, what will happen if you don't reach the goals that you're reaching for, that you set out? If you don't reach your vesting, what is plan B? What are you going to do for your retirement if you don't reach that vesting? Something comes up where you have to stop working before you reach that milestone. What are you going to do? You're going to start thinking about that now because you have a lot of other options. And again, we talked about, are you contributing to Social Security, and will your TRS benefit be enough? Most financial advisors say it's going to take 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to live the same way in retirement that you did when you were working. So again, you work 30 years, that's 60% from teacher's retirement. How are you going to make up the other percentage to get to how you want to live? I've seen people live just as good or either better in retirement. I've seen members get raises in retirement based on the way that they do. You have to look at a lot of different things. You may have your house paid off by then. You don't have the car payments, the children off the payroll, all that stuff. So all those things, that puts money back into your pocket. Look at all those things that kind of helps you get there. That's important to me because I have one that's planning to get off the payroll next May. He's a senior at Valdosta State. I have a daughter she's getting ready to be a junior in college, and I have a 13-year-old. So they're trying. I tell them, guys, you're not a part of my retirement. You're a part of it right now. So all those things really help you live off of a lower salary. That helps you live the same way. So all those things you have to take in consideration. Now, again, we talked about ways to improve your income. We looked at that chart earlier. That's going to give you higher benefit. If you can convince them to give you a raise, that's going to do it. You know, so all those things, to go some more money, more years, that's going to give you a higher benefit. Yeah, I saw that. So also identify how and why you're spending money. You want to be able to do this. Most of your bank accounts, if you go in there, they have a way for you to be able to track exactly what you're spending money on. And that's a great way to do it. See, every month, what are you spending the most money on? Again, is it travel? Is it, dry cleaning for clothes? Is it food? Whatever it is, that gives you an idea of once those things will be eliminated in retirement. Again, you add that back to your take-home pay. So that gives you an idea of where you are. Also, again, evaluate your current spending and set goals that take into account your short-term and long-term financial goals that we talked about. Create a plan to help you meet those goals. We have a lot of different things out on the website. You see a lot of different places we can do a budget. Very important to make sure that you have a budget and that you follow that budget. So a lot of different things you can go out there and be able to pull those off, just different sites, not the TRS site, but just different sites that have different ideas about budget. Also, you want to decide, what are those needs and wants? A lot of times people say, well, I just need this. Well, is it a need or is it a want? And you determine that. That's going to be based on what you spend your money on. Again, what are you looking at doing in retirement and how you want to live? All that is determined on what your preferences are. Number 7 is very important. Establish an emergency fund. We said this is a thing happens, life happens fund. And you don't want your credit card to be that emergency fund. You want to have something besides that, because that car needs a repair. Refrigerator breaks down. You need something. You want to have something where you're not causing yourself to go into debt with the credit cards. So these are going to be the things that allow you to live, again, the same way in retirement, even better than you were when you were working. Now, the fact that you all are not paying into Social Security, that some of you all not, the number 9 is very important. You're going to have to save at least 6.2% in another investment vehicle in order to make sure you have that same benefit that you would have had you been paying into Social Security. So again, the 403B, 457 plan, those are great ways to do it. So you want to make sure that you have that.
What kind of penalty is Social Security, if those of us that did pay into Social Security, what kind of penalty will we have?
Now, that's going to be specific for Social Security, because I'm not really versed on that, but I do know that if you paid into Social Security before you came to a system that does not pay in, then you don't have to worry about having a reduction, because you already have satisfied that. But if you have not paid in, if you retire from a system that does not pay in, then there will be a reduction. But how they do that is what I'm not familiar with. You have to ask them specifically, how it's going to affect your account. Don't go by that statement that you received, because the annual statement does not take into account that you have a TRS benefit. The one question they will ask you when you get ready to apply for Social Security is if you have a state benefit plan, and that's when they reduce it. So you want to know that beforehand, because you don't want to go in retirement expecting that benefit and find out when you get ready to apply for it that it's going to be reduced. Because again, they don't know that you have a state benefit plan right now. You tell them that when you get ready to retire. So.
And if you call them, they can't tell you over the phone either.
But you can set up,
Right.
set up an account at socialsecurity.gov, and they'll tell you you're estimated at 65, 70, and 75 what you
Right.
have.
Right. Absolutely. They'll do that. And as you stated, I don't know how to do the phone, but you do have to let them know, that you have that. And once you do that, then they'll be able to tell you, hey, it's going to be reduced by this amount based on how many years you have in, how many quarters you have. It's very important to do that. We don't do it for you, but we do suggest that you get in contact with Social Security, talk to your other investment advisors at the same time. Because you get ready to retire, as we said, all 3 of those things make up your overall retirement benefit. So you want to make sure you know that. Okay. Your defined contribution plan. Earlier we said your benefit is a defined benefit because it's a set formula. The difference in the defined contribution is something that you actually contribute to based on whatever percentage or dollar amount you choose. Also, that money, if you decide to leave the system, you can take that wherever you go. You can roll that over to another investment account, an IRA, 401k. So that's something that you can determine. What your defined benefit plan, your TRS plan, all the risk is on us. You don't have to worry about the investments. We're doing that. All you do is go to work every day and just earn service credit. But for your defined contribution plan, the risk is on you, because now it's based on the fluctuation of the market. Now, we're not asking you to have either or. We're saying it's good to have both. So we don't compete against those providers that, that have the 403B or 401k accounts. We're saying that in order to have the great retirement, you can have both. But there is a difference between defined contribution. But once this balance is zero, your benefit stops. Unlike your pension with teachers' retirement, that's a lifetime benefit. So once your bucket has been depleted, we start pulling from TRS to pay you out for life. So that's the difference in a defined contribution and a defined benefit.
But if you already started an hour, you wouldn't have to have that, right?
Right, that's either or. If you have an IRA, you can do that. That's just an individual retirement account there. So this either or. You can have this. A defined contribution plan, IRA is that as well. That's considered, it's just different ones. IRA, 403B, 401K, 457, all of those are defined contribution plans. Okay, we used the example earlier, you're contributing 6% of your monthly gross. Here, you also contribute to a defined contribution on a pre-tax basis. So 5% of that same monthly gross is going to be 186. So you can see that even lowers even more your taxable income. So again, you can contribute to TRS. That's a condition of your employment. You don't have a choice of that, but you have a choice whether to contribute this amount. But you can see the effect that it has on your gross monthly taxable income. Okay, look at the example here of the effect if you start contributing at age 22, right out of college, which my son's going to do whether he knows it or not. That's what he's doing, contributing right out of college. And look at over the years what that monthly benefit would be at age 60. You wait a little bit longer, you can invest for 10 years. Oh, I want to start now. Still have a good benefit. It's not as much as if you were to start early, you would still have a great benefit. Starting the system later in life, you still have a benefit. So you can see the difference here. And all these are the same amount we're contributing, same rate of return. You can see the effect if you start early. So this is really, really important to make sure that you have that. Okay, that just about ends it, but a few things I want to go. These are some resources that you can use to be able to look at information. Of course, trsga.com, that's our website that you can have specific information. One great thing that you want to look at, if you're considering hiring a financial planner, you want to find someone that you're comfortable with. You want to find someone that's not a fee-based. One great way that I say that look at someone that you already have a relationship with. At your bank, most banks have a division and they have an investment division. So since you're already part of that bank, you already have a great relationship with them, you can probably be referred over to that particular investment department in that particular bank. Because again, they already have your information. So again, you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the person that's going to be handling your finances. This is going to be outside of teachers' retirement. Because when we sit down with you, all we're going to go over is the actual information for teachers' retirement. Any other information, you want to make sure that you get in contact with those advisors. Well, again, that is our presentation. I'm going to take questions now if you have any questions. Yes, ma'am.
If you were talking about sick leave, and say that you stay in the state, but you're different places because maybe your husband moves and so you have to move, but you're within the state.
Right.
And then you were talking about sick leave at the end. It took a while to get it. How do does your sick leave stay different places or what?
It does. The way that sick leave works, you can go ahead and submit sick leave forms now to your former employers because that information is not going to change unless you decide to go back to that system. So go to our website at trsga.com, download the sick leave certification form, and send that to each system. You have to submit a form for every system that you've worked at because we don't ask them to send us what was transferred out of their system or transferred in. Each system will say you worked for them this period of time and this is what you earned. Because some systems, once you move over, some of them, I guess, may allow you to bring days over, but some of them limit the number of days. So that's why you're looking at getting a sick leave form from every single system. They'll tell you whether you have days there or whether you don't, but either way, we have to have something on file saying that you have pursued, the sick leave days there. So if you have 5 different calendars that you worked at, we're going to have 5 different forms that you worked at, each one of them for that time period.
So is it reasonable that if you know that you're moving every 30 years, at the end of 3 years, I get that certification, that form, do I send it to TRS?
Yes. So we try, it's not mandatory, but we suggest to the HR staff, once a person leaves that employment, go and do a sick leave certification form for them then. Because that way they don't have to, the member does not have to come back years later, and you all don't have to go back and look in the records to figure that out. You can go and submit it because that's going to be final once that person leaves, unless they come back. And if they come back, all you do is just add back those number of years. But yes, you can get a sick leave form whenever you leave employment because your sick leave for that particular system is going to be final at that point. But like now, all you do is get one. Now, if you send that sick leave form to that system, the normal process is for them to send it back to us. If you want to see how many days you have for yourself, you have to ask them to send you a copy, because they were going to send it to us and it just be in your record. So all you have to do at the point of retirement is to get the one from your current. That one will be in your record, no matter if it was 10 to 15 years before. So it'll be there.
Okay, so the form says for them to send it to you.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So if you want them to send you a copy, you have to ask them to send you a copy directly to you.
Sounds like that would be smart.
Right. Just to see, just for your records. But we will have it in our records and your permanent record, you know, when you get ready to retire. So it'll be there. Any other questions you all can think of? Yes, ma'am.
With the retirement option plans. I'm deciding whether I'm gonna leave anything to my husband.
Yeah, right.
So we do that within 6 months of retirement. So if you die and it just means like with that plan A, if you die within, say you do it and you die within 7 months.
The maximum plan? We're talking about the maximum. If you passed away within 2 years, your beneficiary will receive a lump sum of the contributions and interest that you paid in. After those 2 years, he passed away after the 2 years, then he would not receive anything, because it's not designed for a monthly benefit. Because by then, all of your money will have been depleted. The only thing that the beneficiary have access to on those first two plans, Plan A maximum and Plan B option 1, they only have access to your contributions and interest. So if you passed away, you know, before it's depleted, they get whatever's left. If you live past that time frame, then he would not receive anything.
But they can't get health care.
Correct. They can keep the health care. If they're on it when you retire, they keep the health care. But in that scenario, he would have to make the premium payment out of pocket, because there's no monthly benefit coming to him to make the payment. So yes, he can keep the health care. He just has to make that on a monthly basis.
If he's in a totally different field, not education, and he has a retirement, then he has his own retirement, then you can just do that and get more money for the both of you.
Correct. That's the option. That's why you make a decision on whether the beneficiary has a need for it or not.
So what's the difference in A and B?
Option A allows you to leave. It's the total amount. What you do is look at those two buckets of money. You remember you have your bucket that you've accumulated over the years, have the large TRS bucket. With the maximum plan, we begin pulling the money out of your account up front at a rate of 100%. So it's only going to take around 2 years for all of your money to be depleted. Looking at option 1, we're going to pull from both buckets up front. 20% from yours, 80% from teachers' retirement. So what that does is allow your money to last from 10 to 14 years instead of the 2 years of the maximum. That's the only difference.
If we died within that 7 months, then Plan B he would continue
to get right anywhere within 2 years. Okay. 2 years of the option 1. In option for the maximum plan, if you pass away within 2 years, he would receive a benefit. Option 1, there's a 10 to 14 year time span. So anytime before 14 years on option 1, anytime before 2 years on the maximum.
Monthly benefit?
No, a lump sum.
Still a lump sum.
A lump sum. Neither one of those are designed for either one of those first circle. Neither one of those are lifetime benefits. So if you look at the first circle, neither one of those are lifetime benefits. Option 2 through 4, those are lifetime benefits. So that's why they are two different circles. So the very first circle, no monthly lifetime benefit to a beneficiary. Options 2 through 4 are guaranteed lifetime, just based on what option you choose.
What is the process to apply for retirement?
You can submit your application. All that is done online, and you can submit as early as 6 months before you retire, but no later than 2 months. So let's say that you're going to retire in June. So January of the year that you retire is the earliest that you can apply, but no later than the end of March. If you did a July 1 retirement, the earliest is going to be February of that year, but no later than the end of April. What that does is guarantee that your very first check will come to you in the month that you retire. And your very first check from us will be a live paper check that comes in the mail. After that, the checks will be direct deposit at the beginning of the month. One other thing also about working after you retire, if you want to return to work after you retire, if it's a non-TRS cover position, you could do that at any rate. There's no restriction. But if you came back to do a TRS cover position, you have to wait for at least 1 month, then you can go back to work at a rate of 49% or less. And what that means is that you cannot make more than 49% of the salary for that new position that you're going to hold, and you cannot work more than 49% of the time. It's not your ending salary. It's no more than 49% of the new position of the salary of that new position that you're going to go back into.
And for those who would consider working again in a TRS covered position, those are positions that aren't your service positions, like custodial is not TRS covered, food service is not TRS covered, those types of positions.
Right.
Pretty much everything else besides adjunct here is considered TRS covered. So just FYI
Absolutely.
for that. And then as far as getting permission to do that, I have to submit that to TRS, and that can take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get permission before you can actually go to work. We offer you the job, and then there's a span of another 2 to 4 weeks before they send something in writing.
It's not TRS covered.
Right.
That's kind of like substituting in the,
Yeah, adjuncts are temporary
right.
instructors, so TRS does not cover temporary positions. But that's the academic side adjuncts. Adjuncts, as we knew them in adult education and continuing education, this past year under Affordable Care Act went to part-time. So they're considered TRS covered positions now.
Right.
Why would they be TRS covered if they don't have TRS benefit capabilities?
They do have TRS benefit capabilities if you work before, you're 19 hours, but the position itself could work above 19 hours and become benefit eligible.
Right. It's
If
based
that
on the
person
position.
did 1 week of overtime, their average is now over 19.
Right.
So if they did a week where they worked 20 hours, that put the whole average for the year over 19, unless you backtrack all of those other weeks to make sure that everything else drops below 18, because the average is now above 19.
And the one thing, as Shalonda mentioned about food service and custodial, only if they're in a managerial position can they do it. But if they're non-supervisory position, then they're not TRS covered. So any positions like that in a managerial position, then they can be a part of TRS, but you're right.
Yeah. And it's not based on what Wiregrass wants the position to be. It's the type of position that it is. So your position is an hourly part-time position now. That position is automatically in a TRS pool. Whether or not you want the position to work 19 hours or not, we still have to get permission in the off chance that that position goes over 19.
Yeah, but all those things are definitely, anytime you think about doing anything working after retirement, certainly call us first, because we have the department that specifically handles working in retirement, because these are in general things. Some people get very, very smart with it to try to do it, but I tell you, you want to check before you do it because it can affect your retirement. So always give us a call if you question anything that whether I can do this or not. Yes, ma'am.
Once you apply for retirement, and you were talking about you can't apply before some time, can you apply and then decide not to retire, or are you forced to retire once you?
No, you have, once you start fill out the application, you have 45 days for the application to be out there that you can go back and forth into it. After 45 days, it drops off. You have to start back over again. But if you've already submitted, you go through the whole process, you submitted your application to us, and you decide that you don't want to retire. If you do this before we actually cut your check, all you have to do, you have to send us a letter telling us that you don't want to retire. We have to get our IT department to take it out of rotation, because by then it's already in our system. But you're able to do that because remember, your check has not been cut yet.
That's a fancy of walking out on Wednesday.
Right, so you're doing that, so however you do it. So if you do that, as long as your check has not been cut, we can stop it. But if once you cut the check and you get that out, again, once you cash it, it's done. But if you can get that, you can even have the check in your hand. It's not, you don't want to retire, you have to send it back to us. We have to go through the whole process. But the biggest thing is, as long as you have not cut your check, then you're able to always stop it. So.
Okay, when you talk about airtime,
Yes, ma'am.
you said you have to apply for retirement.
Yes, you have to submit your application for retirement first. Then you can actually buy the service for airtime. You can get a calculation for it at 25 years before you submit, but you can actually purchase it until you've actually submitted your application for retirement.
So within that 2 months, then you would have to purchase.
Right. Once you've submitted it, once you submit that application, then you can purchase it. Anytime after that. Anytime after you've submitted it, you can, it's 6 months is early, so anytime after you've actually submitted the application, that's when you can actually physically make that purchase.
Is that considered, you know how, say you come out of the system and you take your 4 years out, you come back to TRS, you buy back those 4 years. Now it's 25 years, 27 years, and I want to buy 3 years of airtime. is that buying that airtime, is that considered, something, you might not, a rollover, like, could I use IRA money to do
Yes,
that?
you can use a 403B, 401K, 457 to roll over to keep from having an out-of-pocket cost. And it's not going to cost you anything, not going to be taxed because it's coming from one investment account to the next. So when you purchase service, you can pay out of pocket or you can do a rollover. So absolutely.
So does the rollover come directly from the retirement?
It does. So what you would do is you submit that. We'll send you a purchase memorandum. You also have to download a direct rollover form from our system. You send that along with the cost, send it to your investment company, and they send the check directly back to us on your behalf for the amount.
So there's no penalty?
Correct, because it's not being paid out to you. It's being paid on your behalf directly to us. So it comes directly to us, and once we receive that payment, we'll send you a correspondence in the mail to tell you that you've received credit for this amount of service. So yes, you can definitely use a rollover.
Can you have, like, you want to pay back, retirement, some of the retirement, you come back into it, can you have that deducted from your?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. It has to be a 1 point. Right, it has to be you can do now, if you have several years, you can buy 1 year at a time. You don't have to buy all of them. Let's say you have 4 years that you've taken out and you want to pay that back. We'll give you a calculation with all of them together to tell you what the total will be. And also we'll give you individually what each year will cost. So you can say, for instance, you can buy 1 year this year, buy another year later on, but you're not able to do partial payments like a deduction. It has to be whatever that amount is. All of that has to be paid at that particular time. But you don't have to buy all the years at one time. Whatever amount that you decide to pay, it has to be that lump sum amount at that particular time. So
So is 9 months in a calendar year considered 1 year?
9 months in a fiscal year. Because remember, the fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30. So correct, if you work from July to the end of March, you're a 12-month employee, that's your 1 year. If you're working on a 10 and 11-month contract, you don't start until August. So from August to April, that's your 1 year. So it's fiscal year, not calendar year. Because from July to June is the way that the fiscal year runs. So if you work 9 months in that given time, that's considered as 1 year of credit toward TRS. That's correct.
Well, I met with somebody like 5 years ago, and they were telling me from January to September would be the year.
No matter, July to June. Because you have to look at, that's how the fiscal year runs. It's July to June. So in that period of time, if you work every month, at least half of the business days in that month from July to the end of March, that's 9 months. So no, the fiscal year runs from July to June. From July 1 to June 30. That's the way the fiscal year runs. Because right now, you all are already finished with everyone is finished with the year, already because, it's past the 9 months. So you're not going to start receiving service credit again until next July. So everyone now, 10, 11, are their year for this year because it's already into the month of May. My pleasure. Yes, any other questions or concerns you can think of?
One more, please don't think I'm trying to.
No.
If you're a beneficiary.
I hope you're not watching YouTube now.
I guess what I'm hearing is that I've always thought of beneficiary in a different way than TRS beneficiaries. Like I've always thought, like with your IRA or whatever, your beneficiary, because if you don't leave a beneficiary, then the state gets somebody else gets your money. But in this sense, a beneficiary is somebody that you're going to bless with money afterwards, just because that you don't need to.
Right. It depends on whether you're doing that. Now, the thing with TRS is no money that you've ever contributed plus interest will ever be kept by TRS. Right. Any money you put in there plus interest either have to be paid out to you as the retiree or a beneficiary. And to determine that decision that you're making is whether your beneficiary would need your monthly benefit upon your death, whether they will suffer a financial hardship or not. You pass away, your benefit stops. Would they be able to take care of their financial obligations? If the answer is yes, they would be able to take care of them, then you would take an option that would not leave them a benefit. But if you happen to pass away within a specific amount of time and any of your money left, they would get that in a lump sum. So the thing is, if you knew that they need a benefit, if your beneficiary did not have a benefit of their own, they did not have a retirement, and you knew that they're going to have those same financial obligations, you would want him to have that same benefit that you would have because they're going to still have, if your children are still there or have the house not paid, whatever it is, you want him to be able to have that same income to make those same payments they were making when you were living. So that's going to be the determination, is whether whoever your beneficiary is, whether they're able to make their same, payments or whatever financial obligations without your benefit. And that's why you look at it. Those first two says, okay, he's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. They don't need my income. I'll take one of these to give me a higher income because it's going to benefit both of us because I have a higher income where I'm living. If you know that the person does need it for sure, then you choose one of the options on the other side of that line in the second circle. So that's kind of where you look at it.
If you don't choose the option until 6 months before you retire, say I die tomorrow, what option do I have?
Well, as long as, are you vested or not? How many years do you have?
Well, I'm sneaking in.
Okay. No,
But
the reason I asked that question,
retirement, but
right.
nobody ever did this.
No, the reason I asked that question because it depends. Okay, if you have over 10 years, your beneficiary has an option. He can choose, if you passed away in active service, he can choose a lump sum of all the contributions and interest in your account, or he can choose Plan B option 2, which is the 100% option, and it's up to the beneficiary. The reason I asked how many years, because if you have less than 10 years, the beneficiary only has an option of taking a lump sum. But once you're vested, that's totally up to them. You pass away in active service, it's up to the beneficiary to decide that. And you can't dictate that because now it's totally up to them. He can take a lump sum of all the money you have in there, or he can take that lifetime benefit. It's totally up to him.
I signed up online to come as a new hire, even though I'm not a new hire.
Right, no, but see, this is I cover all of it.
I had a death in my family where we didn't know all this. I
Right.
want to know all this.
Absolutely. Very smart to do that. It's good now to be able to let them know whoever the beneficiaries are, that they have a choice. Correct. If you happen to have two beneficiaries, one can choose a lump sum, the other can choose a lifetime benefit. They don't have to do the same thing. It's totally up to each individual beneficiary. But if you have one primary, he can say, you know what, I want all the money, and it's totally up to him, minus the taxes. Okay, he wanted to get a lifetime benefit, he can choose Plan B option 2, and it's totally up to him. But in any case, you know, the money that you put in there is always going to be paid out, to someone, and that's the key.
And might I recommend, if you work for a K through 12 system, K through 12 is what we consider manual reporters. They aren't connected to PeopleSoft. They report their own stuff. And as we know that boards of education, different people have different filing styles and they keep different things. If you know that you have a record that's at a K through 12 school, you work for them and you had service credit, go ahead and get your sick leave certification now.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I'm just trying to.
Yeah, go ahead
Yes.
and get it
But
now.
I know that the people
Yes.
that
You do it because it's not going to change unless you decide to go back to that system. It makes no sense not to do it right now. Now, you always want to have a primary on there.
I know, but what if you don't?
If you don't, the money will go to your estate. It will go to your estate, and then whoever you have on your other information on your will, they would have to go through probate and go through court to get it. Where if you designate it, it goes to them. So it still will go to your estate, but then they just have to go through that process to get it. So right. So in no case, there's no case where TRS will keep the money that you have in there, because it always has to go to either to you, to your beneficiaries that you have listed, or to your estate. Always have to go to someone. I thought you had another one. No, ma'am. This is why you're here. This is why I'm here. You want to ask those questions.
Now, you did say, as far as that sick leave, that, did you say there was a cap on that sick leave? Or
It's no cap. There's no cap. No, ma'am. No cap. I've sat with a member. She had 520 days. As long as she was able to use all of that. That's 3 years of additional service.
And when sick leave is figured from the unused sick leave and the forfeited leave?
Yes.
Yes. Because if a system has a certain amount that you could hold, say for instance 360, like for instance for us, 360 hours is the most that you can have. If you go over that, then that's annually for whatever it is. If you go over that, then that start to forfeit. So that's not hours that you can use to be out sick, but it is hours that you use towards teacher retirement, because they go back and recover that when it's time to apply for retirement. But you can't use those forfeited days to be out sick for that time because it is forfeited, but it does count for TRS purposes.
And that's why whenever someone leaves, we have to wait until they actually leave, and leave calculates, because it pushes all the sick leave you didn't use into forfeit because you didn't use it. So now we have a true picture of what you have left over versus us trying to figure out that you have a sick leave request sitting out there somewhere that somebody forgot to approve or whatever. So the system calculates at the end of every month, sometimes between the end and the first or second of the month. And then around that time is when I go in and do all my sick leave certifications for people who've retired.
All right, and I want, just to clarify
Mhm.
again, one more time.
Yes, ma'am.
Under 60, 29 years, 1 year sick leave, you're not gonna be penalized the 7%.
You're gonna be penalized, yes, for those 2 checks, because you're at
for the
29.
First 2 months? or
Right, for
something?
about the first 2 checks that you receive from us. But once we receive the certification with the 170 days, then we make that up. Then you go back, now your subsequent checks are gonna come out on the 30. And those 2 checks that were sent out to you with the penalty, that will be made up. You'll receive a lump sum check for that time. And all your subsequent checks after that are gonna come out on the 30.
All right, but the amount that TRS says that I will be getting as a monthly payment, that it's gonna be reduced by that 7%?
Correct, for those first 2 checks. And once we receive the sick leave, we're gonna do a recalculation to show that you have 30. And now whatever it is with the 30, that's gonna be what your subsequent checks will come out under. But yes, ma'am, those first 2 checks will be penalized because you're not at 30. But once we receive that, as long as you know that you have the 170, you can do that. The minimum again is that 170 to give you that year. So yes, ma'am.
But please make sure you have a year.
Yes, please, because if you don't, you
We have
can be
people that take sick leave and forget they took it.
yes,
And
you can be 1 day short. You can have
please
169.
make sure you have a year.
TRS don't round.
No, you don't. You can have 169 days and have 29 years. You're gonna retire with 29 years and 8 months, and that's a 7% penalty.
And it's based on the 170 days times the 8 hours. Is that right?
No. You get your hours, whatever the number of hours are, you divide that by 8. That tells you how many days you have. So the minimum number that you have to have is 170. So whatever number of hours you're looking at.
Because what they're looking at is a day equals 8 hours instead of like our days that kind of fluctuate between 8.5 to 10.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Alright. 60,
Mm-hmm.
19 years, but have 3 years of sick leave. How does that work?
You just gonna add those. You just add those years onto the number. Right, add to the 19. That's give you more years. You're already eligible at 19 and 60 because you already have the eligibility. All you're doing is add the sick leave over and above for that. Now, the one thing people ask, you cannot use your sick leave to get you to that point, to 60. You can use it to get you to 30. Some people think, well, you have to reach 60. But once you reach 60 and 19, all you're doing is adding the sick leave over and above to give you the additional years now. So, yes, you can just add that on. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And annual leave is not calculated at all, correct?
Not for TRS purposes, no. Right, usually get paid out for that because it's usually,
Even if
HR
you
thing.
forfeited annual leave, it doesn't count.
Right.
It's your
Full
ER,
annual leave is-
ERS is the only retirement
Yes.
system
How
that
do we
does
know
that.
based on forfeit,
Yeah, we-
if some of that is annual leave that's forfeited versus sick leave?
If you go into your account now, you should be able, I don't know because they switched the system. We can give you a screenshot that shows you, it says hours sold annual, hours sold sick. And what that is that's how much forfeited leave you have.
So we'll need to come to you.
Yeah.
To announce that, okay.
But
I mean, that
we
would
can
give a
break it
better
out. We
idea.
know, we can see how to break it out while you're active. Now, once you terminate out of the system, we haven't figured out, no one's figured out how to go in and find out if it's sick or annual. So we try to capture it before we terminate the record.
So you really can gain from your annual leave if you don't, you had something left over.
If you have annual leave left over when you leave and it's not forfeited, we have to pay you for that. We owe you that. So any annual leave that is below 360 hours, we have to cut you a check for that, the month after you leave. Anything that's above 360 forfeits, and we don't, unless you get catastrophically ill, that's the only time I can go in and petition to pull that leave out of forfeit.
Annual leave would be below
360.
360.
That's when we start to forfeit annual is at 360 hours.
Right, it's the same for us.
I know some people say that you lose your annual leave, you don't lose your sick, but.
Yeah, you don't lose your sick in a sense as long as you're retiring. Now, if you go on someplace else, it just sits in that forfeit pattern until you can retire. If you got less than 10 years, then it just sits in that forfeit pattern until you either reach 10 years or.
Right, because you can't use your sick leave to get vested.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use it to over and above 10. You can use it to get you to 30, but you can't use it to get you to 10. Yes, ma'am.
And if this is too particular to say, you got to call in. If, 23 years,
Mhm.
I have a mother who's ill, and so that doesn't live in the state. Say something happens in the next 3 months, and I have to leave, take care of. I'm fully vested, that I would just receive a 7% penalty?
No, ma'am, not at 23, because remember, you have to have 25 before you can do early. So what you would do at 23, you would just leave, if you're not 60 yet, you would leave your funds there, and they would draw interest up to 4 years until you actually turn 60, because see, early retirement is 25 under age 60.
But not work in Georgia.
Correct.
And just, what, could I leave it till
You can leave it until you turn 60, and then you come back and draw at age 60. The only thing with that is you won't get the health care. You would have lost the health care because you're going to another system, or you're going to do something else. But
what if I'm going to do nothing to take care of my mother?
it's totally yours, because it doesn't matter for us like the income. The money's still yours. For 4 years after that, after those 23 years, it'll continue to draw interest. After 4 years, it's going to stop drawing interest, but it's still yours. Once you turn 60, within 6 months of their 60th birthday, you just come back and you draw. So you apply online and you can get your benefit.
No penalty?
No, not because you're 60 then.
Okay, I need to say this again. So, say I need to go, because I'm just almost kind of probably have to take care of my mom. So, I can leave my money. I'm still young, so I can work. And I don't touch my money.
It's going to be yours.
It's just like I work here. I get my money, but I through these years get
Right, you get the same benefit.
for me.
No, you can't get insurance after the fact. You have
I
to.
work somewhere to get insurance.
Right.
I didn't work as a teacher.
Right, so because the only time you can have the health care is if you retire with it. You have to be either at early retirement or normal retirement in order to get the health care. If you quit, that's basically what you do. If you stop working before you're eligible, before you're 25 years, then the insurance is going to go away because you basically stop it.
And you have to be employed by a state of Georgia employer in a covered position to keep the state health that's attached to the Georgia
That's
TRS.
the thing I'm trying to figure
Yeah, if you go to a different state though, and you decide to teach or do something else, that state probably has a TRS coverage.
Right.
You can talk to those counselors and see how you can pull this TRS into that TRS.
Right.
But a lot of them won't talk to me until they know. I mean, it's like when you come, I don't know.
Right.
They don't want to play what if.
Well, and even in that scenario too, you can do that, or you can just do 2 separate retirements. Keep your 23 years here, work another 10 or whatever, make you vested there. Get the health care there, and that way you don't have to buy those years from here to over there. You do retirement from here. You go work there 10 years, get the health care there. You retire from there with 10 years, and you retire for 23 years here. So that way you don't have to buy those years from here over there because you already invested here. But the biggest thing you do, whatever scenario you have, give us a call. If that happens, so that way you can go over that scenario again to make sure, okay, this is what's happening, and we can tell you where you are and what you're able to do at that point.
So is what you just said, why on the website when I plug in, if you get close to within 5 years, you can figure your pension.
Right.
It was saying no matter, like if I retire now or later, I was still get paid the same thing. Was it because they were assuming that I wasn't going to take it out until I was 60?
Well, it depends on which one you use. There's a pension calculator that you can use if you're outside of 5 years. The benefit estimate calculator if you're within that time. So it really depends on what you put in. Because that's hard for me to say why I did that, because based on what you put in there.
Well, that's one reason I signed up, because I think this is crazy.
Right. What you want to do is while you in there, call the 800 number on the back of the book. Call and you can tell them what scenario you're trying to do, and they can tell you right. They can walk you through. Because I don't want to say because it's hard to say because I'm not sure what you were entering.
It's like, wow, this something's not right.
Right. So you can give them a call while you are in that system, and they'll be able to tell you exactly what the situation is.
Should you call and make a phone appointment? Like if I know I have a phone plan.
Now you can't do a phone appointment. You can only do in-house. You can call and ask questions, but to do a full one-on-one appointment, it either have to be when we're here, or you can come to Atlanta to sit down with someone. But you can.
I made one for Atlanta for June.
Right. You can do that. Yes, ma'am. And they'll be able to talk to you, tell you the overall thing. But you can call over the phone, and they can talk to you about while you're in that system, but not a full counseling appointment. Right.
I was thinking that they'd say, I know you need to.
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Ms. Williams, I still have my question. I'm gonna come approach you with.
Come on.
You decide. Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm gonna get this last drop. No, I'm gonna make sure I get it for. Yeah. That's okay. Yes, sir.
My question is, went from a 12-month employee to the 11-month employee.